Hey folks, it's your buddy Mike Messier. Thought I'd do a special pro wrestling video here for everybody, whether you're on Instagram, Mike Messier Art, TikTok, Mike Messier Art, Kofi. I'm new on Kofi, ko-fi.com/MMA for Mike Messier Art. And YouTube, One Pro Wrestling and Sports Fan YouTube channel, Mike Messier Stuff is actually the name of the channel now officially. So let's talk about WrestleMania 1, or I'll talk about it. If you haven't seen it, if you're a pro wrestling fan of any kind, whether you're a WWE loyalist or an independent fan or somewhere in between, even Peruso, Japanese wrestling, La Lucha Libre, old school, new school, you do kind of owe it to yourself to watch the original WrestleMania. I know a lot of very intelligent, informed modern day fans who were not around for WrestleMania 1, and it's beyond their time frame, but it's quite simple. You just find it, whether I believe it would be on Netflix now or Peacock or some such thing, and you just watch it. It's not going to kill you to watch it. One thing that's a little disadvantageous, and maybe some of the Reddit people would know how to find like a video of the original feed that might be really obscure or really hard to find with some of the original music, because I would think that at that time, I'm thinking that Hulk Hogan probably was still using Eye of the Tiger for his theme song. The WWE network, when that was around, probably took out the Eye of the Tiger and put in the Hulk Hogan orchestra theme, which was kind of tepid. Born in the USA for Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo. Girls Just Want to Have Fun for Cyndi Lauper and Wendy Richter. So anyway, if you can find the original video, the original feed with the original music, for the fans that know, that it takes away something from these old school wrestling shows when you don't have the music that they used, even though, as in the case of ECW, they bootleg the music quite a bit. So they lawfully and legally did not have the right to use it. Anyway, let's get to the action. Greg Valentine defending the Intercontinental title against the Junkyard Dog. I think it's a nice little tip of the hat to Greg Valentine. I wish these birds would shut the hell up. Greg Valentine defending the U.S. title. Actually, not. It was a non-title match. Starrcade 83 against Roddy Piper, the dog chain match. WrestleMania 1, he defends the Intercontinental title against Junkyard Dog. And WrestleMania 2, he's defending the WWF World Tag Team title with Brutus Beefcake. That's kind of a unique thing. Wendy Richter, Lalani Kai, kind of a match that gets overlooked. I think that was a decent match. I believe Wendy was actually competing with a broken arm or a fractured arm of some kind. If you watch the tape, she has some type of bandage on her arm there. That was a culmination. I think today's fan wouldn't really know. I mean, they talk about in tennis, was it Bobby Orr and what was her name? Bobby. Getting these names mixed up. The lady that beat him in the match of the sexes, Billie Jean King. Thank you. But this match was kind of like that in that the Wendy Richter Fabulous Moolah match from July of '84, 7 or 8 months earlier, was kind of the predecessor to this whole thing called WrestleMania that doesn't get the credit it deserves at this point. But I believe that was called the War to Settle the Score. And that was Wendy Richter versus Fabulous Moolah on MTV. And then about 6 or 7 months later, they had Roddy Piper versus Hulk Hogan. I think that was the brawl for it all, or maybe the brawl for it all was Wendy versus Moolah. I get those two mixed up, but in any event, the Moolah Wendy Richter kind of going into the Lalani Kai Wendy Richter feud was very good. And these women, Lalani Kai is still out there. She's still doing podcasts. Very talented woman at the time. I don't know if she had a lot of her own heat, meaning I don't know if the fans were very passionate with hatred one way or the other towards Lalani Kai, because she was kind of just doing the bidding for Moolah. It's interesting that Moolah regained the title one more time after this with the whole Spider Lady thing. But Wendy Richter, you can say that it's true. She's the first individual to win a championship at a WrestleMania is Wendy Richter. And Lalani Kai is the first individual to lose. Off the top of my head, I think the match that came before that on the show was the Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov with the wonderful Russian national anthem, defeating the aforementioned Barry Windham and Mike Rotundo, who some of the younger fans would know as Bray Wyatt's father. Would later, Mike Rotundo would become IRS. He would become Erwin R. Shyster, Michael Wall Street, VK Wall Street, and WCW. But this was actually a very hot feud also at the time. The Wyndham Rotundo Koloff, they would feud throughout the summer. The Sheik, they would have Texas Tornado matches. They traded the title back and forth. Unfortunately, if you listen to the Barry Windham podcast he's done, I think with Monty and the Pharaoh, among others, Barry Windham explained that he was kind of burnt out after they lost, him and Rotundo lost the titles to Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake. Wyndham kind of said he wanted to take a break. Rotundo told him he would take a break as well, and then Rotundo didn't take the break, or maybe Rotundo said, I want to take a break first. So Wyndham took a break, and then Rotundo didn't take a break. So Wyndham kind of got stuck flailing in the wind there. But in any event, Wyndham and Rotundo were a top team, and Volkov and Sheik were a top team. And talk about when the old school haggard wrestling fans talk about real heat, the Sheik and Volkov had it, okay? Imagine if they try to do that these days with some type of Russian and, say, an Iranian tag team. I mean, can you imagine if they try to do that now? If they had a modern day Sheik and Volkov? Of course, now it would have to be very politically correct, and they'd have to be like sympathetic characters somehow. And I mean, they wouldn't even touch it now. But in any event, moving forth, the main event, Hulk Hogan and Mr. T against Paul Orndorff and Roddy Piper. Mr. T actually handled himself quite well for a non-wrestling wrestler, for a celebrity wrestler. I thought T was okay in this. And of course, you had guys like Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff, and to a lesser extent, Cowboy Bob Orton on the floor, making T and Hogan look like $1,000,000, as they say. But pretty good tag team, all things considered, tag team match. And of course, the baby. Well, watch it. But one of the guys kind of has a turn at the end of the match for the younger fans that haven't seen it. I don't want to ruin everything. What else? The undercard was interesting. Ricky Steamboat, Matt Bourne. Matt Bourne would come, into the WWF in a decade later as Doink the Clown, and here he is as Matt Bourne. It's too bad they weren't pushing him as just Matt Bourne. Could have been a slightly more competitive match, but I thought the Steamboat Bourne match was nice. The very first match at a WrestleMania is kind of odd. You've got Playboy Buddy Rose underneath the mask as Mr. X, and he actually looks like he's in pretty good shape. I mean, he's not 215 pounds, but he looks pretty good, Mr. X. He's very quick on his feet. And Playboy Buddy Rose was really like an Adrian Adonis, very talented, but just struggled with his weight a little bit or a lot. And Santana, Mr. Go-To for the WWF during that whole era. King Kong Bundy with the squash over, I was about to say JYD, Special Delivery Jones. They say it's 6 seconds. It's more like 25 or 30. Not much to say, but it did make a good impression because Bundy a year later would be wrestling, Hulk Hogan in WrestleMania 2 in the cage with the title. Am I forgetting something? The Body Slam match, Big John Studd and Andre the Giant. This feud really had been going on about a year and a half at this point, maybe even more, and they would continue to feud for another year or so, even at the WrestleMania 2 Battle Royal. So just two rivals. This was, in a sense, the blow-off of the whole thing, but it wasn't really because Studd would just keep coming in Andre. And it was a good match for what it was. It was a spectacle match. It was a novelty match. At the time, guess what? People were actually not complaining, but just people made note that the ringside tickets for WrestleMania 1 were $100. And that was a big deal at the time because people were used to paying like 20, 25 bucks, maybe less for front row. And so to pay 100 was kind of offensive for people, or just it kind of was something that people took note of. And here we are. I don't think you can get into the door of a WrestleMania, 42 or whatever number they're on in 2026 for $100. So people, just inflation and times change and so forth. Trying to think if I'm forgetting anything. Some of the guys that were not on the show, well, first off, make note, Jimmy Snuka and Bob Orton were both very top wrestlers at the time, but they both were in the corners of the main event. Don Morocco, Magnificent Morocco, was not on the card. Unfortunately, Rocky Johnson, The Rock's father, and Tony Atlas were not on the card. The Wild Samoans were not on the card. There was a lot of top talent that was left off this show. A job guy, a mid card guy, Salvatore Balemo was not on the show. I don't think he ever got to be on a WrestleMania. Salvatore Balemo. It's unfortunate. Pedro Morales and Bruno Sammartino would wrestle at WrestleMania 2's Battle Royal. Speaking of Bruno, he did make an appearance at WrestleMania 1 in the corner of his son. And this is where people don't like nepotism, because if you think about Bruno Sammartino, or David Sammartino, or Bruno Sammartino Jr., they're all the same guy. He gets this WrestleMania match. I believe it was a double disqualification with Brutus Beefcake. Actually, not a bad match, because they kept it very quick and very short. And Beefcake really wasn't that bad of a wrestler. I mean, some people give Beefcake a hard time. I think he was fine for the era. But for me, wouldn't you have rather seen Rocky Johnson versus Magnificent Morocco in a special contenders match at WrestleMania 1? I mean, I would have. Or even a contenders tag team match of Tony Atlas and Rocky Johnson against the Wild Samoans. That would have been nice, I think. Adrian Adonis was kind of floating around. He wasn't there on the show. Ken Patera, I think, was basically on the verge of going back or going to jail for his part in the Mr. Saito McDonald's attack. If you know that story, really more like the Ken Patera attack, and Saito was an unfortunate part of that for Saito. But I think if you have never watched WrestleMania 1, even if you're not a big wrestling fan or a big WWE fan, just pop culture, you had Liberace, who's long since gone. Muhammad Ali died 9 or 10 years ago. You had all these wrestlers and all these pop culture personalities, the Rockettes. I mean, I'm assuming the Rockettes are still around, not the same ladies that were there in 1985, but it's just one of those things where, like, the Rockettes were kind of like the Solid Gold Dancers, with a little more class back then. No offense to the Solid Gold Dancers, but in any regard, I mean, just kind of a fun show, a historic show. The WWE would tell you that this was the first big mega show. That's a big lie. Even the WWE did their showdowns at Shea Stadium with the likes of Bruno Sammartino versus Pedro Morales and Larry Zbyszko versus Bruno Sammartino. They did shows like that. The WCW's original name, or the predecessor, the National Wrestling Alliance, of course, Jim Crockett Promotions, had Starrcade 83 and 84. There was 2 Starrcades before any WrestleManias took place. Georgia Championship Wrestling had their Atlanta Tag Team title or Tag Team tournament every Thanksgiving night for many years. That happened before WrestleMania 1. Kerry Von Erich, the David Von Erich Memorial Parade of Champions, was May 6, 1984. That's almost that's less than a year before the first WrestleMania. So there was a lot of super cards, a lot of big mega cards. That Kerry Von Erich show had 43,000 fans, by the fucking way. So, I mean, the WWE will always blow up its own ass and tell you their reworked history. That's why I really can't stand when casual wrestling fans want to feed me information. They got off A&E biographies. They watch some fucking A&E biography that the WWE co-produced or co-wrote, and they want to tell me about wrestling history, or they watch the Young Rock sitcom, and they want to tell me some hogwash story about something that happened and didn't actually happen. I'm telling you actual fucking history, folks. If you think wrestling's a joke and all that, that's fine. But if you don't know the real story of the real things that happen in wrestling, how are you supposed to know the real things that happen in other facets of life, like politics or world history? I mean, why should I believe anyone that tries to feed me some nonsense, some false information they got from the WWE, when in fact I know the actual goddamn stories, okay? So it's your buddy Mike Messier saying it's WrestleMania Memorial Day, whatever you want to fucking call it, March 31st. If you have WrestleMania 1 access, like I said to the fine folks on Reddit, provide a nice link that we can all watch the original show on. That would be nice, with the original music and so forth, the original commentary. Jesse Ventura and Gorilla Monsoon doing commentary. It's your buddy Mike Messier, MikeMessier.com.